And instead of knowing that you're the Lake Barcroft expert, instead of knowing that you're the Arlington condo expert, they're tapping on one, touch of the button on Redfin or on Zillow saying, yes, local guide, tour me. I know nothing about you, but because this is the easiest solution for me, that's what I'm going to do. So in order to compete against the one tap, tour, essentially, you need to be the content creator and provider for your local area to show the market everything that you have to say about the local real estate area. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another real estate video. My name is Matt. That is Shawn. Welcome to the Shawn and Matt Show. Shawn, Thursday, January 28th, how is your GameStop stock working out for you? Did you get in on that?
I'll tell you what, yeah, I got in. I bought it at $3 and I sold it at $350.
Big old pile of baloney right there.
Could you imagine, man, if you just had that? Like, they were saying that there was a guy that invested in it about a year ago. He bought $37 million worth of like a 13% share. It is now worth $3.2 billion.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's crazy. Just to I always do the calculation. All right, what would $10,000 of $3 of share worth now at $300? I mean, it's well into the millions.
God.
And I was looking up and I saw that the guy that's losing all the money on it, he bought a $44 million house in Miami Beach last year.
No way. Yeah, so it's hurting all of those people that are shorting the stock because they were thinking it was going down, and that's that whole Reddit system that is going against the big dogs.
Don't mess with the Reddit army.
Yeah, man, that's insanity.
Well, guys, in today's video, we're going to be talking about whether or not you should refinance in 2021, how to beat out 10 other offers, and Zillow versus the residential agent. Shawn, let's start with refinancing in 2021. And, we have the new administration. We have, the coronavirus decreasing, but maybe there's new strands. Maybe it's increasing. It's really hard to tell. Maybe you should wear 2 masks. Maybe you shouldn't. It's really, there's a lot of information out there. But all that being said, rates are, can I say all-time low? They're not at an all-time low, but they're pretty darn close to being at an all-time low. So if you bought a property, let's say from possibly even 2019 and before, it may seem like a very good time to refinance. Shawn, should people be looking to refinance in 2021?
Absolutely. We'll see last
Why?
year, right? All right, a couple different reasons. Last year, you saw that there was this huge refinance boom, right? Right when rates hit that all-time low, there was this huge boom of everybody wanted to refinance. But what happened was it screwed up liquidity, right? So there was zero liquidity in the market. So what happened was the interest rates actually went up for refinancing because they just couldn't do them. Then a lot of lenders were focusing on purchasing. But now what's happened, and just so you know, I'm a real estate agent. I'm not a lender, so I'm talking about what I know about this. But basically, now we are about 1/8 to 1/4 point up from the all-time historic low, right? So it's really tough to time the market. But right now, rates are ridiculous. They're still 2.65 for a 30-year fixed. So why we're talking about this today is because a few people reached out to me this week. And so, and I'll give you one example. Somebody reached out to me and said, hey, I just did an online application with one of these online lenders just to see if it made sense for me. And they came back and said, hey, yeah, we'll give you a 2.99%, but we're going to save you $250 a month. And he's like, what's that sound? How's that sound? And I said, actually, it sounds pretty high. So make sure that if you are going to refinance, you're actually doing your research and you know what you can get for these loans, because 2.99% is high. So he did an application with one of our people, and he ended up getting 2.65% and is saving $500 a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's almost like different lenders are different.
You have to look at different lenders. We have a bunch of really good local lenders that we will forward you to that get the job done. They know the market. They're not going to screw you over. These online people, they're getting so many applications. They're just like, whatever, I'll throw this out, see if it sticks.
Do you think there's like a cutoff point of like if your rate is 4.1 or higher or 3.8 or higher, you should refinance?
Yeah. So really what you want to look at is a break-even point. Okay. So to give you an example, you say your cost to refinance is $5,000, right? The cost to refinance is $5,000. It's saving you $500 a month. So how many months is that to your break-even point? That's 10, right? So what you have to look at is what your cost of the loan is, what your cost to refinance. And a lot of these people will say, it'll cost you nothing. It's going to cost you something, right? They're going to roll that into the loan somewhere. So if it's $10,000, so if it's saving you $250, then it's going to be 20 months, right? So really, if you're going to refinance or if you're thinking about refinancing, you've got to think about how long are you going to be staying in the property. If you're thinking about selling the property, then don't refinance because it's probably not going to make sense. And I don't know where that, if you're currently at 3.5 and now you can get 2.65, you're just going to have to do the numbers, talk to a lender. They'll run that break-even scenario for you. And they'll make sure that it makes sense for you before you pull the trigger.
Do you know if lenders are still running into that liquidity issue? Because some lenders, they say, oh, we're not doing any more refinancing right now, or was that more late 2020 and now that's opening back up again?
Yeah, there is liquidity. So they're not running into that problem anymore. What happened was everybody tried to refi at the same time, and it just gobbled up the money. Now the money is there. It's a great time to refinance. One other thing that, and this might actually turn out to be better for you. All right, rates were at all-time lows, right? So you're missing it by 1/8 to 1/4 point. But think about this. Your value has increased over the last year, right? So since that time, your value has actually increased. So what does that do? That decreases your loan to value, right? So last year, your value was, say, $500,000. Now it's $550,000, right? So your loan to value has actually changed. So since that loan to value has changed, your interest rates could also change because you have more equity in that property. So really, it's a super good time to do it because our values are up, interest are almost historic lows. And if you have mortgage insurance or anything like that, you're now able to refinance and possibly get out of that mortgage insurance gap, right? So, because usually anything below a 20% LTV, 15%, whatever, you're probably going to be paying mortgage insurance, or the lender has built in a higher rate because of, you're not putting 20%. So the reason rates are higher at a lower LTV is because you're higher risk, right? Mm-hmm. But if you can get that value up and you get the appraisal where you need it to be 20% LTV or 25%, then your interest rate's going to just come down.
How much, speaking of interest rates, how much lower do you think interest rates can go? Because right now, you just mentioned it, they're around 2.7-ish for a 30-year fixed rate. The all-time low is a little bit under that. Are they gonna stay around that, or I've been reading some articles that say that they're gonna go back up?
I've heard a mixed bag. I really don't know. I'm not a professional in that kind of watching rates. There's a lot that goes into it, but I have a sense that they're gonna stay pretty low. Now they could get up to 3, and that's gonna change a lot of things. I bought a house this year, and I got a 2.65 rate, and that saved me thousands of dollars or increased my purchase price by so much. So think about that. In some instances, it's saving people $500-$600 a month. Could you imagine that? Now, one other thing I want to get to, and another reason to refinance is if you have a lot of equity in your home and you have high credit cards, right? What do you do with those credit cards? So now what you could do is actually open a home equity line of credit, a HELOC. HELOCs are going to be based on your prime rate. So you could look up the Wall Street Journal prime rate, and it'll be based on that. And there's a lot of factors that go into this. But say you have a 20% credit card payment, right? You're paying 20% interest. If you open a home equity line of credit at the same time you're refinancing, what that is like it's a zero balance credit card basically sitting there. So if you do come into problems, or if you want to pay off that credit card, you're going to pay a 20% credit card rate off with about a 3.25% HELOC rate. So your HELOCs are going to be a little bit higher, But man, could you imagine the difference in payment?
Yeah, that is some
So-
ninja credit working right
So
there.
think about that. Think about, do you have high credit card debt? Do you have a pretty good loan to value ratio in there where you could do this sort of thing? I think it's a great time to do it. And, if you need some good local lenders, we have a bunch of them that are so good that'll get you that good rate. Don't be fooled by the online stuff, because they're going to give you either teaser rates or they're going to throw you a junk email thing, say, hey, look how much I can save you, when in essence you could have saved double that.
Wise words from Mr. Battle. All right, let's move on to the next topic, which is how to beat out 10 offers. Now, recently I had a listing where we received 10 offers on the property, and even more recently, I've had 2 different sets of buyers that both submitted offers, different price points, ended up being 10 offers. On both sets of buyers, we were not the highest priced bid, and we still won the property. So, Shawn, I wanted to walk through some of the things that I have learned. I have been confirmed with my assumptions, and some new things that I'm going to implement in 2021 when it comes to submitting an offer or receiving an offer in multiple offer scenarios. And the first thing is professionalism. I put all the listing descriptions, details, access information in the MLS. You would not believe how many agents call me asking, where's the lockbox? Is the property owner occupied? How much closing time do they need? Is there a preferred settlement company? All the information is listed in the agent remarks of the MLS. So by a click of the mouse, you as the buyer's agent have all the information, and you have just relayed to me in a phone call that you have done zero research on the property, which does not bode well as a first impression.
Sure. And on top of that, there are the documents that we upload. And so we try to be as informative as possible with our listings, telling you, all right, this is what conveys with the property. This is how you write a good contract. This is what the seller needs, that kind of thing, right? So that's so informative. And every time I go and write on a property, I'm looking at those documents every time to see what they've got uploaded, whether it's your disclosures, lead-based paint, your disclosure, your property disclosure. So that's number one. And on top of that, I personally always call the listing agent. I no matter if I have all the information or not, I'm calling the information to start a rapport, right? I want them to know that, hey, I'm an agent that you can work with, and that I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability. I'm going to write you a great contract that's not going to have crap all over it. And, you can deal with me. It's going to be an easy process.
Yeah, agent rapport is definitely on my list. I'm guessing you're not calling to ask them if there's a combo or a Century box. But
exactly. Well, that's
more
the other
so
thing, right?
to build that trust. So the next thing that I've noticed, and it's just about making someone else's life easier, because when it comes to these multiple offer scenarios, oftentimes there's going to be a deadline. A couple times agents reached out and say, hey, I haven't got my offer together. Can you wait 30 minutes after the deadline? The property's been on the market for 5 days. The deadline has been set. If you can't meet a deadline, if you can't meet the deadline to submit the offer, how are we going to believe that you're going to meet the deadline to close the deal? So that is another terrible precedent. These aren't astronomical asks from the agent. It's pretty straightforward. Here are the directions. Here's when to submit the offer. When you don't read the directions, when you submit the offer after the fact, it's really quite a bad precedent. The third thing is the agent rapport. So definitely getting the listing agent or the buyer's agent, whatever, on the other line and building that rapport and honestly having the confidence, because on one of my buyer clients, the agent called me and she said, you're in the final 3 and I need to ask you 3 questions, or it was basically 2 questions and a statement. And, before she's even saying this, I'm telling myself, whatever it is, the answer is yes. So the first thing, it was yes. The second thing, can they close a week earlier? Yes. The third thing was, can you give me your word that they'll be able to close, if there's a low appraisal? And you're soothing the other agents' risk, their nervousness, their anxiety, because oftentimes these properties, they're escalating way over list price. There's a lot of anxiety involved, and your job being on the other side is to build that rapport, is to have that confidence, and to trust that you and your client can close the deal to make the other agent's job easier.
That's right. I mean, it's all about communication. I've said this so many times. We've had plenty of times when people just pop over an offer. Here's an offer. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't even know this was coming. I don't even know who you are. It's so much better to have that communication between agents. And sometimes, I just get something going with them, right? It might not even be about the house itself. Sometimes we just find something in common and we talk about it. And, again, you're building confidence, you're building likability. And I think that goes a long way. When things are razor thin between two offers and you have a good agent that knows how to talk to people and can make people feel comfortable, and then you've got this other agent that really doesn't know the market, doesn't know how to talk to people, that kind of stuff, guess what, man? The good agent that knows how to talk is going to win. Right.
So I have two other ninja tricks up my sleeve, and
Matt the Ninja, I like it.
We've talked about waiving contingencies. We've talked about waiving, part of the appraisal. We've talked about escalating your price as high as possible. But what if you've done all those things? What if you're like, all right, guys, let's get to the meat of the deal here. Well, I'm guessing you haven't done these two things. First of all, it is imperative that you're working with a local lender. Now, a lot of people say, well, what's the difference? Money's money. They're going to close either way. Let me just tell you this. We submitted an offer on a townhouse in Reston. The agent responds and says, I see you're using, this guy as the lender. I've never used him, but I know him. He's a great guy. So I call the lender. I call the lender. I'm like, hey, what's the deal? Do you know John Smith? He's like, yeah, I was best friends with John Smith's son growing up, would go to their basement, hang out, party and whatnot as like a teenager. So the fact that there's basically a familial relationship without, messing up any disclosures between a local lender. Think about the trust that instills, because we're waiving contingencies, we're going above list price. And then as an agent, you see that your son's best friend is the lender. First of all, you're probably going to try to figure out a way to give him the business. Second of all, the son's friend, the family, and there's that implicit trust there compared to an 800 number from halfway across the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that you don't even think about the locality of everybody and that they know people, right? But the same thing is, the reason I use local lenders is because they're good, right? You can call them on a Saturday or a Sunday and get them. Whereas, these online lenders or these 1-800 number lenders, you never talk to the same person twice. And so how am I supposed to get the information that I need as a real estate agent? We're representing our clients. And part of that representation is knowing what type of lending they're doing, how much they're putting down, making sure that we're writing the contract correctly. Maybe it's one of these things where they just got a pre-approval or they just got approved online. And it's like, well, I need a pre-approval letter and I need to know how much you're putting down and all this other stuff before I can write this contract. It's Saturday. What if contracts are due Sunday night, right? I can't get a hold of that lender. How am I supposed to write that? So what I'm doing, I'm saying, hey, local lender guy, I know you can pre-approve these guys in about 15 minutes. Get me done, get me the pre-approval. And then in the end, I know that they're going to beat them out in so many ways. Maybe rate will be close, but the experience will be 100 times better. And it's really about the experience, the being able to listen. Lenders, you don't see them face to face, right? A lot of times, but if you do, that is going to solidify things, right? And so there are so many things that these local lenders are doing better than these big guys.
Yeah, what's the cost of convenience? What's the cost of avoiding a headache? What's the cost of reassurance?
Ask some of my clients, you know what I mean? There was a guy that bought 2 this year. One he did with the online guys. Second he did with one of our guys. Complete night and day difference, he said.
The last thing about beating out 10 offers, and I wasn't sure about this one just because on the listing agent side, I try to advise my clients not to pay attention to this whatsoever. Mm-hmm. However, I can say that with success, the personal buyer love letter has worked on multiple occasions. Again, on the listing side, I say, guys, listen, this is there to distract you. Let's, pay attention to brass tacks. But when you're submitting a local personal letter and you're going on LinkedIn and you're seeing their hobbies and interests and where they went to school and maybe, what bells and whistles that you can press. At the end of the day, it's a personal transaction. And if you can pull on their emotional heartstrings, everyone is just looking at pieces of paper. But if you can say, go Arizona Wildcats or something like that, just something different. At the end of the day, it's not ones and zeros in a computer. This is a personal transaction. And if you can press those personal buttons, I think you should absolutely go for it.
That's such a good point. I mean, personal transaction. And that's why I believe that, there's a lot of online things that you can do. But in the end, you want to deal with a person that's going to guide you through this process. And that's why the real estate agent is so important, because we have that rapport and we're going to guide you through it. Whereas lenders, you can just click a button and blah, 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 and you're going to feel fine. But what was the point of that? I can't remember that. Sorry.
The point of it was to use a personal letter.
Oh yeah. The letter. Okay. So it's so funny because we were talking about this a couple weeks ago where there were agents saying, don't write these letters. You could find yourself in a situation where you're being discriminatory, right? Well, listen, I'm writing the letter because I'm trying to get my buyer in there and I'm going to do whatever I can to win that offer. And if it's writing a letter about the place he went to school or, something that gives some personality to this person, I'm going to do it. I'm trying to win. I'm representing my client. If your seller wants to discriminate, that's a whole different story, but I'm writing the letter and I'm showing you, hey, we are human and we love your home and we want to buy it.
Yeah, there's definitely a fine line with the personal letters. So again, on the listing side, I say, listen,
don't pay attention.
This is noise.
Yeah.
But on the buyer side, I'm like, hey, I mean, when you're up against 10 contracts and you're not the highest price, maybe it's the local lender, maybe it's the waived contingencies. You got to play every card in the deck.
There's a lot of things besides price that make good offers, right? And one of them might be making somebody feel comfortable, making somebody feel like they're going to love this house, right? Yeah. And honestly, it's happened, right? It comes down to that. So you're going to use everything you can to win that deal. Sometimes they're razor thin, and the littlest thing can put you over the edge.
So the third topic that we're going to talk about is Zillow versus the residential agent. Zillow versus the world. Zillow versus Shawn battle. And, what this is all about is there are a lot of real estate agents out there that advertise on Zillow, that use Zillow for a lot of their business. And now that Zillow is becoming a brokerage and they're hiring their own agents. Shawn, let's think about it. Would you advertise your services on redfin.com? Would you advertise your services on compass.com? Would you advertise your services on washingtonfineproperties.com? A little bit different of brokerage models, but the way I see it, Zillow is soon going to become the competition for residential real estate agents. So when a large portion or a portion of your business is now coming from a competitor, it is up to you as the real estate agent to shift. Because if you're relying on short-term Zillow leads, and now Zillow is cutting off that portal and saying, by the way, we're now a brokerage and we're in your city, that is going to disrupt part of your business model. So Shawn, how would you go about, I know you're not a big Zillow guy or Zillow advertiser, but how would you go about pivoting if you were looking to Zillow for a handout of leads that you're paying for?
Yeah, I had this conversation online with an agent before, and he's like, I'm thinking I'm just getting out of real estate. I'm going to go to the lending side. And I'm like, listen, dude, you can compete. You've just got to change your strategy, right? So first of all, I think you've got to become the local expert, right? You have to know the ins and outs of your market better than anybody else, because Zillow, yeah, they're going to be good, but they're only going to be as good as their agents, right? And so if you're hiring just any agent, that's why, some brokerages are so good, is because they go for talent, right? And they pay for talent. And that's the thing is, Zillow is the owner of these leads. If you're paying for these leads, that's going to stop at some point, because the money is in the sale, not in the buying of leads. Yeah, agents are paying out tons of money, but now that they've got the brokerage, that's all going to stop. So how do you do it? So become that local expert, know everything about it, know what the trends are, We look at trends and how things are performing and how many homes have come on the market, how many condos have come on the market. And so we know kind of what's happening in the market day to day, and we can feel that pulse.
But how does the consumer know that you know? So it's not only knowing the market, but it's also putting out consistent content about the local market. Because you were telling me that through our content that we put out on the Arlington condo market, on Lake Barcroft Homes for Sale, on Roslyn Condos for Sale, that someone found you through a Google search. And, if you know about Lake Barcroft Homes for Sale, but you don't share it, you don't tell anyone, that's great, but it's not going to help out the consumer. So it's one thing to know it, but it's another thing to take the next step, press record, press publish on the blog post, and let the consumer know that as well.
Yeah, it's all about video. And that's what we've been doing for a long time. We do this every Thursday. We talk about our local market. That's number one. But then we do property videos. So if you're doing them in Delray or Lake Barcroft or Arlington, different neighborhoods, you're going to focus on, your keywords for that particular area, and people will call you based on those videos, and you've got to make them fun and cool and whatever, and do them in your own style. But truthfully, I've had a few calls in the last couple of weeks, leads, real leads, not these online leads that are really difficult to turn around, real leads that I've already turned around.
Yeah,
so
that's
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah, it works. This guy right here has been trying to get me to do video for so long. Matt started doing video, 7 years ago, before anybody was doing it. And he was really smart about it and started doing it on, just local areas or local things. And now he has a huge following online. And do you know how much that's worth? That is worth so much. So we've got to be smarter agents. We've got to start using the tools that are there for us to become the Zillow killer.
Agents are resistant to putting out content. I don't know if it's perfectionism. Oh, it has to be perfect or else I won't put it out. I don't know if it's ego. What are people going to think of me? But right now, the consumer doesn't think anything of you because they don't know you exist. And instead of knowing that you're the Lake Barcroft expert, instead of knowing that you're the Arlington condo expert, they're tapping on one, touch of the button on Redfin or on Zillow saying, yes, local guide, tour me. I know nothing about you, but because this is the easiest solution for me, that's what I'm going to do. So in order to compete against the one tap, tour, essentially, you need to be the content creator and provider for your local area to show the market everything that you have to say about the local real estate area.
That's it. We've been saying that for a long time, and it takes a long time. It's not going to be like, oh, I just did a video, I didn't get any calls. We've been doing this show now for 2 years maybe, right? But it's the complete comment, it's the constant go and keywords and everything else. And so when somebody searches a certain thing that we're talking about today, should I refinance my home? We're going to pop up as the local guys that tell you, yeah, right now is a great time to refinance your home. So
that's a good keyword. I wonder why we thought to do that one first.
That's right.
Refinance in 2021. Mm-hmm. Guys, there you have it. Another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. If you have any comments or questions, be sure to drop them in the comment section below. And for Shawn and myself, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.